Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of Wrestling Wednesday. This week, of course, running through the results of Fastlane this last weekend. And wouldn't you know it, I finally beat Cameron in predictions. All told, the only match I missed was the tag championship match, because I did not predict that there would be a no contest there. But I finally won. So going into WrestleMania, I am the Portillo's champion, and Cameron owes me the first Portillo's meal of our entire year doing this. I guess it's a little under a year because we didn't start until after WrestleMania, but I'm finally getting Portillo's and not paying for it myself. Up first in the pre-show kickoff match, you had Breezango and Ty Dillinger versus Chad Gable, Shelton Benjamin, and Mojo Rawley. And this was a fine enough kickoff match, although it did not bode well that, as I was trying to kind of remember for this recap, that I could not remember which tag team had been paired up with Mojo Rawley. So it was kind of forgettable in that sense. But it got the crowd warmed up, and it was good to see Breezango and Ty Dillinger back in a wrestling ring. So I feel like it's been a while since I'd seen them be doing anything. Then to kick off the show proper, we had the crowd favorite match of Nakamura versus Rusev and Rusev Day. So you had dueling Nakamura and Rusev Day chants, which was a lot of fun. Considering this kind of matchup came out of nowhere, it was a nice little match that I think had a lot of good little moments. The kick that Rusev gave Nakamura, where he basically flipped over and landed nearly on his head, was a hell of a thing to see. Of course, Nakamura was going to win here to give him appropriate momentum going into WrestleMania. But hopefully they do something with Rusev, because obviously he's still over as all hell. Up next, we had the United States Championship match of Bobby Roode defending against Randy Orton. Now, if I had known that they were going to be billing this as Orton going for the one championship that has eluded him, which is basically what the hype package was all about, instead of the nonsense that they've been kind of building on SmackDown about the top 10 list, I would have definitely gone with Orton, no shenanigans. As it was, I predicted that Orton would get the win, but I thought there were going to be I thought there was going to be Jinderference in there, and that Jinder Mahal was going to come in and cost Roode the match, but because he was going to interfere, that Orton would have won but not get the championship. Orton did win, and he got the championship, and overall it was a pretty solid match. They it started out a little slow, but they had a good kind of end game, and I liked that it didn't it didn't have Jinder interfering. Orton won, got the pin with an RKO out of nowhere, of course. Then he got the 1-2-3, took the belt, and then you had Jinder come down, and then you had Bobby Roode still get to look strong by doing his glorious DDT on everybody. And of course, as I think we've all known, this is obviously seems to be setting up for a triple threat at Mania for the U.S. Championship, to mirror the triple threat that you have going for the Intercontinental Championship. So, solid enough match. And yeah, if the build-up had been Orton was trying to get the one championship that had eluded him to become a Grand Slam champion, then of course, obviously, I think we all would have said Orton was walking away with this one. As it is, I'm glad I won that one on a technicality. Then you had the women's tag match between Natalya and Carmella versus Becky Lynch and Naomi, with the heels going over. Again, that gives you kind of Carmella looking strong with as Miss Money in the Bank, presumably leading us to a point where maybe we're going to get a cash in from her. I don't know if they'll do it at Mania. I feel like doing it at Mania in the Asuka versus Nia Jax, or Asuka versus Charlotte match isn't going to go over well. So I imagine it'll happen sometime after. But at the same time, going up against Charlotte or Asuka, when is Carmella going to cash in and that go well? So it'd be interesting to see kind of where the Money in the Bank pays out for there. But overall, this was a fine enough match. No build to it though, so nobody really cared. It was just kind of the filler of the night. Up next, you had the Usos versus the New Day, which, I shout out to Jeremy. I forget his last name. I apologize, but he always chimes in on our predictions with Cameron and I, and he basically called this. I perfectly identified that it was going to be a no contest with the Bludgeon Brothers interfering. The match up until that point, though, I was really enjoying because obviously we had some of the, in my opinion, some of the best matches last year were the New Day versus the Usos. So what were we going to get that kind of, gave this a different enough feel as opposed to just kind of more New Day versus Usos? And so I absolutely loved the story that basically, like, they were just, they know each other so well that they were doing each other's moves and finishers and stuff. That was a ton of fun. And then, of course, you had the Bludgeon Brothers come in to set up maybe a triple threat there for WrestleMania between the Bludgeon Brothers, the New Day, and the Usos. And so, yeah, it was like a nice little brutal bit that the power bomb to the steel steps that Xavier Woods took just looked brutal, and he did a hell of a job selling it. So I hope his back's okay. But overall, it was a very fun match. I thought that had a solid story ending for what it looks like what they want to do with it, kind of setting up the Bludgeon Brothers to be these monster beasts in the SmackDown tag division. Then we had the Women's Championship, Charlotte Flair versus Ruby Riott, and this match was better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit, especially when we got to like the placing of like, okay, this is going to be like the little bit of filler before we go into the big six-pack finals. But it was a nice, solid bout between Charlotte and Ruby, and obviously Charlotte was going to still walk away with it, but it did a good job setting up Ruby Riott as a formidable opponent, and I think will help raise her stock kind of in the women's division, and with her faction of no, she's not Absolution. Oh, the Riot Squad, that one. So hopefully I won't forget the Riot Squad kind of moving forward if they continue to give her this nice little momentum in this realm. And then of course you also had Asuka coming out afterwards to formally challenge Charlotte, as I think we all had been kind of hearing the rumors of and predicting. So that's going to happen at WrestleMania, Charlotte versus Asuka, instead of Asuka going against Alexa Bliss. Which, of course, as we saw on Raw, seems to be setting up Alexa Bliss versus Nia Jax, which is good because that is the story they've been telling, and so I would much rather see that than Alexa versus Asuka. Then finally, we had the six-pack challenge match, which was like way better than I thought it was going to be. With AJ Styles ultimately winning over John Cena and Ziggler and Corbin and Zayn and Owens. Everybody had great moments in here, even Corbin and Ziggler, who obviously didn't have as much going storyline-wise in this match. They were extra bodies in here, but both of them had great offense. You, of course, had Cena starting the match off with like a whole bunch of AAs on everybody, and then a little one-on-one section of Cena versus Styles was nice. You had Ziggler and Corbin fighting out in the crowd, and then going through the plexiglass out there. You had the incredible, continuation of the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens story with Kevin Owens, clocking Shane McMahon, of course. Them actually doing kind of a variation of the whole, like Sami Zayn laying down ready for the pin, but they didn't trust each other, so they fight it out, and Sami Zayn tried to steal a pin away. And then you had, great Shane McMahon interference, first pulling the ref away when Kevin Owens had the pin, and then pulling Sami Zayn out when Sami Zayn had a pin to set up seemingly triple threat against those two, between Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, probably with Daniel Bryan as the special guest referee. We'll probably see that next week when he's back on the show. But so that was just great, wonderful storytelling there. You of course had ultimately Styles, who got taken out, got by getting an AA through a table earlier on. He was kind of gone for a good chunk of the match, but then came out of nowhere to hit his phenomenal forearm after Kevin Owens pop-up powerbomb Cena, and then he hit the forearm on Kevin Owens and pinned him 1, 2, 3. AJ Styles retains, and so you had this, like, one of my favorite moments of the pay-per-view though was Cena, depressed and sad in the corner, with the whole storyline of like now his road to WrestleMania is gone. This was his last shot. He has nothing. and a camera going in on him, and him just pushing the camera out of the way. It was and the camera ending on celebrating AJ Styles. It was a ton of fun. I thought the ending, I mean, like, just that kind of moment went a little longer than it needed to. Like, I was wondering if, like, some big thing, like, if The Undertaker was going to show up or something like that. Obviously not, but it was like a way better match than I thought it had any right to be. So overall, the pay-per-view, I think, surprised a lot of people, myself included. I wasn't really expecting much in this go home to before WrestleMania pay-per-view, but it ended up, performing pretty well. There were a couple of matches that were, less than stellar, but nothing at all bad. And you had a couple real solid bouts in there. So those are my thoughts on Fastlane. Let me know what your thoughts were in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.